I wanted to share a short, quick story that I was thinking about the second day of the conference. Um, I was thinking about the last time I went fishing with my grandfather. My grandfather, his name was George Ramos Abuchachuish in Tlingit, and he was from the Flitmachati clan, also known as the Koho clan. And his people are from a little bit north of Yakutat, Gunahu Kwan. That area is beautiful, and I had the privilege of being there with him once as a teenager. And he was a lifelong fisherman. He spent so much of his life fishing on the Sitek River out of Yakutat, and gosh, he could pick a net so fast. And I think of my childhood. I think of the summers that I spent with my grandparents, and we had to cut salmon, and I was given like a little bucket to stand on so I could be tall enough to reach the table and do all the cutting that was necessary for the salmon, to being a teenager and being large enough to be able to assist and be actually in the boat with him. And so the last time that I was able to fish with him, I was I'm trying to think. I was maybe 24, 25, and it was July 4th. Sometimes we would fish around July 4th because a lot of the other people in the community would be in town with the festivities, and it was nice to have the river all to ourselves and for it to be quiet. And my brother, Kai Montour, and my mother, Judith Ramos, and my grandfather and I were working on the boat on this day. And the eagles were kind of hanging around, and they're watching us because they can get lucky if you manage to drop a salmon head or clean up some guts or something, and they're feeling like they want a heart. And we were working out on the river, and so we set the net, and we go back, and we watch, and maybe about 10 minutes in, the net starts flicking and starts shaking, and we're starting to count all the little parts of the net that are starting to flicking, and trying to figure out and guess how many salmon that we have in our net. And after maybe waiting about an hour and watching the tide, we decide to go pull it in and see what we've got. And my brother would pull the net in, and my grandfather would shake it out and shake the salmon in the net. And my mother and I would grab the salmon and gut them and then put them in the cooler. And we're working together as a family, and it was beautiful work. It's work where you are physically holding the same type of salmon that may be descended from your own the salmon that your ancestors thrived on. And we swapped jobs at one point, and through that, I remember I was given the task of needing to shake the net. And so I went over, and my brother was pulling in the net, and I started shaking the net. And this one salmon was really tangled up in the net. Its fins was really caught in there. And I was like, no. And I was fighting with the salmon for about a minute or two. And at some point, my grandfather, he looks over at me, and he's like, we're going to starve with you. And so he takes over, and I go to the back of the boat, and I'm given the task of gutting again, which is important, and it's absolutely needed and absolutely necessary. And when we had to laugh, because, when you've spent your life on the land and you spent your life shaking a net, it's not going to matter how young and strong a person is. I think of the connection that my grandfather had to the salmon, and for him being Tlutnachati, his people were Koho salmon, so he was a person of the salmon. It was beautiful, and it's a memory that I treasure, and I wish I had known that was going to be the last time I would be fishing with him. but it's something that I hold true and beautiful. And that same day, sometimes we would, I don't know if I should say this, it's recorded, it might be illegal, but if you happen to drop a salmon head in the air, an eagle can catch it if they're hungry enough. And it's fun to watch some of the juveniles practice their catching, and we would do that day. And sometimes, I think there was like one point where my mother was gutting the salmon, and she had placed the knife, I think the knife in the salmon head, had set it aside because she had to do something else. She was washing a salmon. This eagle came and it like snatched up the head with the knife still in it. And we all look up, and the eagle's going up, and it's like, it's going up further and further and further. And we see the knife sticking out, and we're all running around in the boat covering our heads because we thought maybe the knife would fly out. But luckily it didn't. The eagle flies down the river, and we're like, bye, that was our sharpest and best fillet knife. No. And luckily we had some extra ones that weren't as good. And so we kept working throughout the day, and I'm walking down the riverbank, and lo and behold, this wave comes, and our knife returned to me. And I grabbed it up, and I ran back down the riverbank. I was like, your knife, and I'm like, it's still sharp. And so we start cutting, and we keep working, and it was is a beautiful memory. And the reason I'm telling this story is because we will never know who our descendants will be. And so anyone watching this, you may have a descendant that will be Tlingit, and they may live in Yakutat, and they may work on that river. And our collective responsibility is to each other. It's not only to ourself and our family and our community and our tribe, or even our region. It's to each other. And I think that's a big part of the larger themes for the youth programming for this conference, was bringing in the different voices and bringing in the different perspectives was really important to me, because we marry each other, we love each other, we're friends with each other, we care for each other, and I do the work that I do to ensure that memories like that, memories like working on the river with your grandfather or a guardian or a parent feature, are available to our great-great-grandchildren. And we hope that you'll have sharp fillet knives. Like, may your knives be sharp. May your boat be good. May your wheel not pop off and roll down the road like happened to us that day. We didn't screw in the screw things on the tire very well that day. But I think that collective responsibility is something really beautiful, and a part of the larger theme for the next panel that we have today. So the final panel of this conference and of the youth programming we have is titled Indigenous Power and the Land. And the people on this panel are people that I have been privileged enough to meet and to be able to call friends and to have learned from in many different ways. And for the theme of this panel, I wanted to recognize that Indigenous people hold power to shift the dynamics of the world for the future generations. Within this panel, the individuals you're about to hear from have immersed roots through their ancestral lineage, through the wisdom that they have gained and will gain, and their own intelligence and their hard work. Their hands are so calloused of the work that they're doing. It's beautiful. And from water protectors to land defenders, and through those that work in biodiversity and conservation leadership, from the Arctic to the Tongass, this panel will focus on the power of passion, the power of culture, and everyone that's doing their best to be a good ancestor. And so with that, I think we are waiting for another person or two to hop on, but I think we should get started so we're not running too full on Indian time. And so with that, I would actually love to invite Miss Jordan Cocker to introduce herself. Jordan is someone that I have had the privilege to work with on a handful of times, and we were just catching up. But I would love for you to start by introducing yourself, Jordan, about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
Sure. Thank you so much, Malo Alpito, for that story, that fishing story. I had so many memories of fishing with my grandpa while you were telling that. It was a really good memory. So thank you for sharing that. De onde bat bon, de onde bat dom toyak oe ma kan, toy boga, paddle tika, bay goat nado. Hello everyone, my name is Jordan Portman Cocker. My Kiowa name is Dom Toyak Oaima, given to me by my grandmother Dorothy DeLon. I'm the daughter of Geli Kikoka, who is the firstborn of the firstborn of the firstborn in a long line of firstborns descending through Filifakatahaku Bofa. Our family are from Tongatapu, Ha'apai, and the whaling village of Ava'u in the Kingdom of Tonga via Aotearoa, New Zealand for the past 4 generations. My mother is Cedar Tree Woman, Morning Star Woman, and she's the daughter of Geo, the daughter of Alice, daughter of Pato Tai, daughter of Keen Tuttle, Dragonfly Woman. And we are Paddle-Tea from the Paddle-Tea family and the Toibo family from the Redstone and Rainy Mountain regions of the Kiowa Comanche Apache Reservation in Oklahoma. So the Cockers have been in New Zealand for 4 generations now, and that's where I earned a bachelor's in design from Auckland University of Technology and went on to postgrad at Victoria University in Wellington in museums. But so I'm Indigenous in 2 ways. Indigenous from the Great Plains, Southern Plains here in the North American continent, and also Indigenous from across the Pacific, my dad's community in Tonga. And so we have a saying, and one of my favorite poets, Teresia Tewa, once said that we cry and we sweat salt water. So we know that the ocean is really in our blood. And I think that's such an important view of ourselves as Indigenous folks from Oceania. And so I'm dialing in from Wajaji territory, Osage Treaty territory in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. And I don't want to talk too long, so I'm going to stop there.
We are the last panel of the day, so we can take all night if you want.
Well, I'm really grateful to have been invited to be on this panel and really excited to discuss these important topics about connecting with the land, connecting with our environment, and the real power that we wield when we foster those connections and those relationships. So, day one day, thank you.
I'm saying Gunash, Jordan. So glad to have you here. I'd love for the next panelist to introduce himself. His name is Mr. Sam Schimmel, or I like to think Grandpa Sam in my thought, because he's always been such like an elder. I learn from him all the time. Sam, you would have seen Sam a couple days ago. He actually won the Youth Leadership Award for 2020, and we're so thankful to have him on the panel. Sam, we'll pop over to you.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words, Maka, and for bringing this together and giving us an opportunity to speak about some of the stuff that's going on where we live. I also want to say thank you to Jordan. It sounds like your work is quite impressive, and the things that you're doing very important. Your story, Maka, reminded me of the first time that I went fishing with one of my uncles. we, out of Kenai, we had gone, and he had just gotten his boat from his father, who had had a stroke and was no longer able to go fishing. But they had been fishing their entire lives. And so he said, hey, come on, let's go. I was probably 8 or 9. And we headed way, way down south in the Cook Inlet. And we let out the net, And the tide starts to swing, and we can see fish picking up in the net. And all of a sudden, we're watching, and the corks start going down one after another, after another, after another. We're like, I wonder what we caught. We probably got a big fish. And so we start trying to roll up the net, and then all of a sudden, it starts pulling off the boom. And what had happened was we had caught a whale, and it had pulled through our net. We were able to get the net back, and the whale was fine. But you should always be careful what you set your net for, because sometimes you catch a whale. My name, for those who don't know me, is Sam Schimmel, and I'm Knights Indian and Siberian Yupik Eskimo. And I live here in Kenai, Alaska. And I think the thing about who I am is based on where I come from. I grew up between St. Lawrence Island, Gamble, here in Kenai, and also in Seattle. And in those different places, you learn different ways of being and ways of knowing. In Gamble, I grew up subsistence hunting. In the village, everything is very expensive. And the way you eat is through practicing your traditions, is through hunting marine mammals and collecting things from the sea and from the land. And understanding that way of life and seeing how that's been affected by climate change. In recent years, we've seen that weather patterns are changing. One of my great uncles, Akuchi, was our village weatherman. He was the one who knew weather in the traditional sense. He was the one that you would go to and ask, hey, can we go out hunting today? Hey, can we go out tomorrow? Where should we go? And he'd say, you can go south, you can go north, or don't go out today, or go out tomorrow, or just wait. Don't go out yet. And towards the end of his life, he'd say, well, I don't know. I don't know what our weather's going to be. I don't know what is happening. And he would say the earth is moving faster now. And he didn't mean that in the sense that time was faster. He meant it in the sense that our traditional knowledges that we rely on and have relied on for tens of thousands of years were not able to keep track of the new weather patterns that were happening. And so I hope today, it is a big question, a big if, that we can find some solutions to work together to make it so that we can continue to live in the places that our people have lived for tens of thousands of years. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sam. Really appreciate having you on today. Did you guys get a moose?
We did not.
You didn't get a moose. You gotta practice your moose face and your moose call more, I guess.
Yes.
So then the next speaker I'd like to welcome on, speaking of animals and seal, one of my favorite memories with Marina Anderson was when we were about 14 years old. We were down in Juneau, Alaska for Shutzine Leadership Camp. It was like a 2-week kind of cultural immersion for Tlingit hiding some chain people. And Marina and I were given the task of cleaning seal intestine. Our mentors had gotten this beautiful seal, and we were taught how to butcher and how to use every part of it. And Marina Anderson is a wonderful person who has like the largest laugh. Her laugh kind of encapsulates the entire room. It tethers and wraps you up like a robe. And we were laughing about something. I don't remember what it was, but she laughed so hard, and we're cleaning the seal intestine. She was cleaning the inside of the intestine out. And unfortunately, a flick of it went into her open, laughing mouth. And so the amount of chaos that ensued from her accidentally getting some innards of a seal intestine in her mouth was chaotic and hilarious and funny. And it kind of brings a little bit of tears to my eyes to think of it. But Marina Anderson is an incredible person. She is Haida and Tlingit, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Sangaila, everybody. Hau'amaka for that introduction. My name is Marina Anderson. I'm from Prince of Wales Island. My family is from Klowok and Haukan, my father's people. They were known as the Kwitas, or the dirty mouth people from Masset, and they actually feuded over harvesting rights in Masset, and either they won or they lost. I'm assuming they lost because they were pushed away from the ocean, and they had to go into the woods for that winter, and they had to harvest roots. And so when they came back in the spring, they had very dirty mouths. And after they were pushed over, they migrated north. And my father's people are the first Haida people to come up to Alaska, or at least settle in Alaska, from what I've been told. And from there, they settled in Haukan, and then the resettlement happened in 1918, the relocation, where they consolidated our villages into what is today Heidelberg. My family spent the winter in Heidelberg. There was a lot of smallpox going around, and everybody was living in tents and very close to each other, many clans kind of piling on top of each other. So in the summer, when they came up to the summer villages, which are the outside areas of Craig, they decided to stay here. They settled here, and they didn't go back down near Heidelberg. They stayed up in the summer villages. And those are some of the areas that I work hard to protect today. For those of you that don't know, Prince of Wales Island is in southern Southeast Alaska, or north of Haida Gwaii. It just depends where you're at in the world, which direction we are. And I grew up harvesting with my family, with my father. Harvesting is one of the connections that has been really sacred to me. It's something that my family has been able to hold on to through my dad's side. There were, so many different gaps, our language taken from us, song and dance and our sewing and everything, ceremony. Different family members held on to different things. My aunt danced, my uncle carved, my dad was a harvester. And because of that, he was able to lay a really solid foundation for me based on respectful harvesting and reciprocity. And although we lived outside of the village, out in Port St. Nicholas Bay, we spent a lot of time connecting with our family inside of the villages by sharing food and making sure that everybody was fed for the year. And so that's a little bit about me, and I'm just so honored and happy to be here tonight. I even put my lipstick on.
Goodness, Marina. Yeah, I definitely feel like I miss wearing lipstick with the masks coming on and off a lot frequently here. You look wonderful, and appreciate you calling in. Where Marina is from is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, and hopefully you can see Prince of Wales Island one day if you're watching this. The fourth person on our panel, Miss Ruth Miller, is someone that I admire a lot. She is Dena'ina Athabaskan, an Ashkenazi Russian Jewish woman who grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, and her family's roots are in Bristol Bay. If I'm sharing a little thing of every single person, one time Ruth and I were kicked out of the Conference of Parties. We were in Madrid, Spain, and protesting for the rights of Indigenous people. And the people didn't want Indigenous voices elevated to the places that we were elevating them. And so we got kicked out of the conference for that day. We were allowed in the next day, which was great. But I'd love to turn it over to Ruth to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do.
Where are we? Oh, I'm already struggling with Zoom and we're like 5 months into pandemic. I'm so honored to be here with all of you. I feel like I just want to sit back and listen to each of you talk story. It's funny, the story that Maka was sharing was so dear to my heart, and it was a deeply intense moment of civil unrest when about 300 of us protesting together for greater youth voice and for greater attention to climate in these international negotiations were escorted out of the conference in a mass demonstration. And it was such a beautiful moment of solidarity and power. And we have a great picture of the two of us hugging and embracing right next to this big tank. But I am proud to be here with all of you, and I'm happy to introduce myself and my ancestry. Shivak Isanch Iji, Ekokasnan Chugushakai, Kilanda, Degekak, to Anchorage Shuguya Studa, Shidisnaka, Heather Kendall Miller Shumta, Lloyd Miller Stukta, Chikinakali Kidiki, Chakayang Esnenish Ikte. My name in Dena'ina is Shavaik Isan, which was given to me by a very dear elder and language teacher, Danita Slauson of Tyonek Village, which carries the meaning whirlwind woman. My family is from the Lake Clark area. When we moved downriver after the first wave of pandemic decimated our village, and my great-grandmother was one of the last children left alive. We moved into Bristol Bay and began to grow roots and build our family there. But I was raised here in Degekak, which is now called Anchorage, born to two courageous, powerful Native American rights lawyers. From my mother's side, the trailblazer that she is, it was deeply inspiring to be raised up by a Dena'ina woman who never hesitated to use her voice in the defense of our rights and our peoples. But it was equally inspiring, I think, to see my father of Ashkenazi Russian Jewish ancestry fighting the same fight alongside her and often together, knowing that our Indigenous rights and our rights to a healthy and sustainable world, our rights to be in good relationship with our animal and plant relatives, our rights to practice our cultures and traditions are fundamental rights, and that ones that all of us should pursue and advocate for and respect in solidarity with one another. And so I began my work, we say, like advocating for climate or working for Indigenous rights, but for so many of us, it's not, a passion or an interest or career. It's fundamental. It's non-negotiable. It's what we do as people by leading our ancestors into the now, by paving the way for our descendants. It's not something that we choose. And so I guess you could say that I began my climate justice work working in Bristol Bay with the United Tribes of Bristol Bay against pebble mine. But I think all of us begin our climate justice work by being resilient, engaged Indigenous people who are still here, still surviving, still practicing our traditions. That is climate justice. That's bringing our genealogies back into justice with our world. Just the fact that we're here gathering and engaging with one another. But that working against pebble mine eventually took me through school and through working with a number of other incredible organizations. And now I'm so lucky to find myself working as a climate justice organizer for Native movement, doing a lot of national Indigenous advocacy, and as well as Maka was talking story, international advocacy alongside really incredible siblings, bringing together these pieces of conversation, bringing together stories of fishing and what it's like to be out on the land, trying to find time between our schedules to attend these conferences while we're also making sure that we have time to be out on the land for hunting season, finding ways to make ourselves heard and known, to make space for ourselves in every level of decision making. That is our climate justice. That is our role as Indigenous youth now. So yeah, I feel very blessed to be here in conversation with you all. Chicken.
I'm saying Ganesh, thank you so much, Ruth. I adore you all so much, so my face isn't big enough for my smile to see you all. I am so excited to welcome on the facilitator for today's panel, Mr. Chance Lee Rush. Chance Rush is awesome. I've had the chance to work with him a couple of times, and we're so excited to have him. If you need an MC for anything, he's your guy. He's so good at engaging people, and I think finding ways to extract the intersections of where all of our collective work meet. And so I'll pass on the mic to Mr. Chance Lee Rush, and we'll get started.
Hey everybody, good evening, man. What a way to end a beautiful summit. I know that you guys already hashtag Tales 2020. I hope you guys did that, pass that along. Hey Maka, real quick, what did you enjoy about this? You put on an amazing summit. You're part of a team that put on an amazing summit. Now that we're in our last lap, what'd you get out of it? What'd you think about this?
There's nothing that can keep our people apart from each other.
That's
I think
right.
it's really beautiful. Like a pandemic can't, distance can't, wild horses definitely not. And so the use of technology and being able to do hybrids events can only increase the ways of which we connect and which we share space together. And so whether that's we have a cup of tea and we see each other over a screen, our spirits are still together, and I think that's something that is beautiful and my main takeaway. Well, good. Well, I want to thank you and your team. We have a great lineup. My goodness, like tonight's lineup is, not to put it, not to compare it, because last night was awesome as well. We had three great speakers in Damon, Dayami, Rebecca. Wow, what amazing 3 days. And I think that if you're out there, man, let's give our entire crew, our entire staff for putting on the summit, give them a round of applause, let them hear you. We thank you. We appreciate you. I want to apologize to you guys. Man, I had bad Wi-Fi at the house, and I live in the big inner city and all that. I had bad Wi-Fi and had to zip out here. I felt like I was an undercover agent zipping out here to my office. And so with that being said, Sam, it's good to see you again. And I also want to say this to all you beautiful ladies here online here with us. Happy Daughter's Day to you all. You guys are some beautiful daughters, and we're just so grateful and thankful for you. I have 6 of them. I've got 6 daughters. I like 4 of them. No, I'm joking. I have 6 amazing daughters, and I try to stay in shape because I try to stay in boyfriend shape, because I have to pay for 6 weddings one day. So with that being said, we're going to get started this evening. Again, I'm proud of each and every one of you. And if you guys can kind of go around again, and I just want you to tell me a little bit more about your work that you do and why it's so vital with respects to the movement of Indigenous rights and environment. So, we're just going to kind of go down the road. Let's start with Marina. Miss Anderson, if you can answer that question there, just share just a little bit about, tell us a little bit more about your work.
So my day job is I am the administrator for the organized village of Kasan, which is the tribe in Kasan on Prince of Wales Island. I'm very fortunate to be in that position because I get to kind of have my hands in different pots and see through the vision of the council. But outside of my day job, it really kind of bleeds into my everyday life. Ruth hit on it a little bit earlier that whether we professionally started doing any of this work a year or 2 ago, we've been doing this work for thousands of years. We've been the scientists on the land. We've been the stewards of the land. We've been the people that have been really nourishing it and living in that relationship of mutualism. And so, outside of my day job, outside of working on different policy positions and such, I harvest a lot. I consider that one of my roles, not necessarily a job, but it's one of my roles is to harvest and make sure that everybody in all of our communities here are fed, that they have enough fish and deer, and that their fish is put up properly, or they have wood for their smokehouse and berries. And so a lot of what I do, at my desk carries into my life outside of work.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Wow. How about you there, Jordan? How you doing there? It's good to see you. You doing well?
I had to unmute myself. Yes, doing well, thanks. It's good to see you too, Chance. Are you here in Oklahoma as well?
Yes, I'm in Oklahoma. Friday night, running kids everywhere, getting ready for a football game. My daughter's a cheerleader at OU, so we have to go to the game tomorrow. So where are you
Well,
at?
congrats. I'm in Pawhuska. So that's so funny that we're both in Oklahoma. We have a digital Southern Plains and far north connection right now in this panel.
Right. Wow, that's kind of cool. I know. At least we're here. Oklahoma's in the building.
Yeah,
So
representing.
yeah, I know you and your brother do a lot of great work. I'm just blown away by your work as a young lady and just how you kind of take the lead in a lot of areas and things like that. And maybe just share with us, why your work is important.
Yeah, so right now I'm actually working at a museum, the Gilchrist Museum in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as a curatorial scholar of Native American art. But as we know, our Indigenous arts tie into the land directly. Everything about our arts is referenced from our relationship with the land and the waterways that we're beholden to as clans, as kinship systems, and even our adornments really play and pull on those intergenerational connections that we have to where we're from, as well as travel. And so for me, in terms of thinking about the land and thinking about waterways, I feel like the work that's going on in Oklahoma right now has a lot to do with really coming to terms with that history of Indigenous Indian territory, or what was called Indian territory, and also truth-telling in different Western spaces, but especially at the home fires, truth-telling to ourselves, our own histories and our own stories about the places that we live within and on, and the places that we share with other people, settler sort of populations. So that's a little bit about my work right now. I think something that's really always struck me about being a descendant of generations of makers of art, producers of art. We have 10 generations on my mother's side of Kiowa artists, and these women worked with hides, they worked with shell beads, they worked with so many different, even the beading motifs were reflective of the beautiful leaves and trees and medicines that they were surrounded by. And so for me, to talk about Indigenous art or Native art or anything to do with material culture is to really talk directly about the land and directly about these very intimate connections that our ancestors, my ancestors, had with these spaces, and sometimes not had, as colonialism has interrupted different forms of access here down south for us. So that's a little bit about my work. I won't go on too long, but it's good to see you all.
Yeah. Well, we're going to come back to you here in a little bit. I'm excited to have you guys all on here. All right, let's go over to Ruth the Truth. I always wanted to say that tonight. I just want to say Ruth the Truth, and I wanted to call you Air Jordan. I want to say Sam the Man, and Marina, you just have a cool name, just Marina. So Ruth, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, Marina's plenty cool.
Yeah.
It is so good to hear more. I feel like already in our conversation, it sounds like we're all bringing totally different bits and pieces to one another, and that's really exciting to me.
Yeah.
I shared a little bit about, getting started in movement building. My work has always been in community organizing, but really what that means to me and what I've really found my passion in is bringing together Indigenous knowledges from different places to collaborate and to talk about what revitalization and resistance looks like for a lot of us. I was just recently actually in Aotearoa, spending time with loved ones there, and working particularly on language revitalization processes and the ways that we as Indigenous peoples can return to our ancestral ways and use our connections and relationship building and like globalization to bring what was past into the future, to use our connections as a source of returning and as a source of building together. And so when I do community movement work, really to me, it's about spending time with relatives, spending time on the land, getting to know my land and learning to be a good guest and ally in others' lands. And so through my climate justice work, a lot of what I love to focus on is that like collaborative storytelling, working particularly with media to help people, and particularly Indigenous youth, rural Indigenous youth, tell their own stories of their land and their experience. They being the best scientists, the best experts, the best knowledge holders, the best story carriers of their life, should have a role, the leadership role in determining our climate justice positions and policies and determining what Indigenous rights and tribal sovereignty look like. And all of that is rooted in storytelling. It's all rooted in our ancestral wisdoms, our knowledge of places, and uplifting that wisdom to be even more valuable than Western wisdom and Western science and education. And so thinking about how we can collaborate and come together to talk story, to build that relationship, to share connection, that's really where I find my passion. And so a lot of my, like professional work is exactly that. It's all the work that to us isn't professional. It's just the way, our ways of being. Right. Our ways of being good relatives. Right. And yeah, Jordan, you have me thinking as well of my traditional arts. I'm a traditional beadworker, and that was a knowledge that came through my mother, but she was always so busy with work as a Native rights lawyer that the only time that she really spent time beading was during her pregnancies, when she was carrying life within her. That was when she was drawn to use her beads to paint our world, to paint our medicines and such. And so I think now, as I bring this practice back into my family, as I spend my time with elders learning our traditions and making this a defining feature of my life, the carrying of this knowledge and this art, I always hold how precious it is, and how there was a time in our genealogy when it was scarce and that knowledge was threatened. And I think back to those times when my mother found her power and rest to create while she was creating life. That's when she was creating her beadwork as well. And so I'm really, excited to be finding all of these ways that we intertwine and interconnect.
Yeah. Great stuff. Wow. Hey, Sam the man, Sam Schimmel, how you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. It's been a while since we've seen each other.
Man, the first time I seen you, you were just, man, you just took over in Washington State, and then next time I run into you, we're in Washington D.C. How old are you now?
I'm 20 years old now.
Oh my goodness! I still look the same age though, don't I?
You do. Nah, you do.
Yeah.
You actually look younger.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Well, I'm really proud of you, man. I'm really proud of you, Sam, and just your name is continuing to get out there, like, the rest on the panel, and Jordan, her brother, and, I've actually heard of the other presenters too. So it was neat. I was so excited to get here tonight, but, go ahead and share with us a little bit, about your profession, what Ruth was saying, like our profession's like our way of life. So could you tell us a little more about your work and why it's so vital with respects to the movement and the Indigenous rights and the environment?
Of course. Well, I guess my full-time profession right now would be a student, but I don't think that really changes for any of us over our life. But outside of that, I really work to try and ensure that the silent knowledges which are held within our communities are unlocked and are shared. I know, for instance, in Gamble, one of my aunts is the last people who knows how to split a walrus hide to be able to make a skin boat, the traditional way that we would hunt. And I know that my aunties here in Kenai have knowledges that nobody else holds. And so one of the projects that I've been working on is trying to match elders with youth, taking youth who want to learn and matching them with elders who want to teach. And I'm still looking for some people to be able to help me out in this, but the idea would be to create a kind of a network bank where you have elders who know things and maybe don't have a nephew or a son or a grandson who wants to learn them, but are willing to teach. A lot of our people here, I know, for instance, my cousins don't have direct family members who are able to teach them our ways of knowing and ways of being. For a lot of different reasons, from people being beaten in boarding schools for speaking our language or thinking or talking about our ways of life, some of our elders simply aren't able to open up and aren't able to share their knowledge, but some are. Mm-hmm. And so one of the most important things that I think can happen over the next few years here is that we will be able to connect with elders who are able to teach. Mm-hmm. And this, I believe, holds a special kind of importance. Right now, here in Kenai and in Gamble, we are dealing with changing weather patterns that are completely unprecedented. I talked a little bit about, in my introduction, my Uncle Akufki, who is our weather man for our community. Brought up in the traditional way of reading weather and understanding our place where we've lived for 10,000 years. Mm-hmm. And the knowledge that's held by our elders is something that's going to help us move forward and progress into a new era and into a world in which our climate has changed. Life has never been easy in the Bering Straits where we are. We frequently have temperatures that are 40 below zero, and we go and hunt 40 to 60-foot whales in a 16-foot boat. Mm-hmm. And so struggle is not something that's new to our communities. Mm-hmm. Hardship is not something that's new to our communities. But we need to remember our traditions and push forward our ways of life if we're going to continue to exist in the face of these hardships. And so I hope through my work to unlock that knowledge.
Okay, good. Wow, man, I can't wait to hear more from all of you guys. Wow, I cannot wait. Hey, listen, as Native people, you know, we're still dealing with it, but we're also moving past the stay in school, stay away from alcohol and drugs, stay out of trouble. We've got to dig into this. We've got to dig into the environmental perspective, the sovereignty perspective. We have to learn this. We have to teach it right after we learn it. I got a question for each one of you, and I'm just gonna bounce around a little bit. Obviously I don't have it all together. I would have been here on time. Ruth, I want to come back over to here real quick. You were talking earlier, and you said, you brought up youth. You highlighted youth, and you talked about, as professionals, we do what we love. And so, can you speak on this? What is possible when we engage and empower Indigenous youth? What is possible?
Man, anything. Gee. What is the first thing that comes to my mind? I mean, because I'm immediately flooded, with potential, with possibility, with the answer, anything. what we carry, these hardships that Sam presences, so many of these hardships were imposed on us. So many of these hardships are not of our making and not of our choosing. Each of us carry generational trauma within us. Our DNA has been shifted and impacted by the adverse effects of colonization, by violence, by genocide. That is still continuing today. That is still disenfranchising Indigenous peoples, still leaving us at the margins, still leaving us vulnerable, not only systemically through our state and federal governance systems, but leaving us vulnerable to creations like climate change that we had no role in perpetuating, and yet we suffer the most from. And so carrying these burdens within our bodies, within our families, we see the impacts in the loss of our languages, the loss of our traditions, our ancestral knowledge, our memories, our stories, are precious always, but they're also threatened. They're also scarce. And so when we begin the empowering work of reigniting a passion for learning and a connection to our earth in young people by telling Indigenous people that the burdens you carry are not your fault, and they're not your parents' fault, and they're not your grandparents' fault. And you have the capacity to heal. You have the capacity to reach. You have the capacity to grow your roots down into this earth and to grow your arms up to the sky, to meet one another, to enter into conversations like this, to make your voice heard at every level of decision making. I mean, when we start planting those seeds in our youth, we are going to see an Indigenous revitalization unlike ever before. We are going to see thriving, beautiful, harmonious, successful Indigenous communities that are not only able to subsist, but are able to thrive. And all of that has to start with our youth. It has to start with planting those seeds of empowerment and confidence and creativity and engagement. Those seeds that will then grow roots to one another, that will then blossom, that will then start to plant other seeds, that will then create these projects of exchanging knowledge like Sam is sharing, these networks that make sure that every community member is cared for and taken care of by the rest of the community, like Marina has brought to us. I mean, all of that work starts with youth who feel a responsibility and a deep love from their ancestors, and a responsibility and a deep love for all those descendants that will come after them. It all begins with our youth.
Right. Wow. And that is so true. That is so true. This is why we have to treat a lot of people say Native youth. I say young adults. We have to start treating our young adults like going like we're going into business meetings. We have to be professional with them, So speaking of that, like I said, I'm just jumping around. Jordan, I heard a presentation that you put together out in Nevada last year, and I liked how you tied in, your New Zealand perspective on it, about environment and about community. So I wanted to throw this question over you. Can you speak a bit about the importance of land to Indigenous people and why Indigenous peoples can be some of the best stewards of nature?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Thinking about the, I would say, environmental sicknesses that we see in my two ancestral homelands, but especially in Oklahoma, the land, the time it takes to heal the land is extensive. And after industries and corporations, or even, agricultural norms shift in the way that they have over the past century, healing the land from those toxic impacts is going to be, just like Ruth said, the work that is put onto our plate that we inherit. But I think it does also come down to relationship. It's such a funny thing to live in Oklahoma and to not have access to bison meat when we know that this was the hunting ground for bison, the largest mammal in the Great Plains, for thousands of years. And not having access to that meat today because of the oil industry, because of also fencing, and these histories that really trapped Indigenous communities into reservations, but also trapped the land into these really harmful relationships. I think when it comes to relationships, though, just like any relationship, you have to have that foundation. You have to have that recollection, and sometimes it's borrowed. So for me, my connections to my family's homelands, to my family's allotments, as well as the places that are sacred to us today that we still have access to, a lot of my stories, a lot of my oral histories, a lot of my songs connected to these places, and even some intimate memories are borrowed from my grandmothers or my great-grandmothers. And I did something that was very similar to what Sam was talking about, which is I went around and I talked to them. So when I was about 22, I created this little project. I was still in university and I called it the Grandmother Project. And I went around to my grandmothers and I talked to them in Kiowa, in English, and I asked them stories about their childhood. And what came forth was these memories of our home that I never saw, going back and forth on the res in horse and buggy, and harvesting medicines that could cure toothache. I never had those memories myself, but by talking to my grandmothers, I cultivated a relationship where I was able to rekindle some of that intimacy through their lived experience. And I think when it comes to healing those relationships with land, that's also the work. It's not just sort of onus on us to go out there and get a degree or something. While degrees are helpful, I feel like our own Indigenous knowledges and our own Indigenous memory is the expertise, is the good medicine that will really create a sustainable futures. And we've seen that in several communities in Oklahoma over the past several years, which is really exciting. There's a Pawnee Seed Project where their Pawnee Nation is replanting ancient seeds that were kept and squirreled away from, Indian agents and different colonial forces that extracted them and broke those ongoing relations. So it's already happening. I feel like these foundations are being reached out to in new ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard about the Pawnee planting seeds, how it's just, I love this next question. Marina, I'm coming over to you, but it's almost, if we want, it's the return of Native, and we have a shot, and this is a place where nobody can stop us, except for us. So thank you for setting that up. Marina, I was asking Jordan, about, land and how it's impactful to the community. So my question for you is, can you speak on why culture and taking care of, why culture and taking care of communities' environmental needs are able to go hand in hand?
Yeah. Really, our culture and our environmental needs, they go hand in hand with each other. Our lands and our waters and our sky, they've nourished us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I think there's a really colonial approach to looking at it when we think of ourselves as humans separate from our natural environment. We're one with that world. The only thing that has ever separated us is really colonization. And when colonization came in the door, that's really when that bridge or that gap started. And for us, finding our way to stewardship, finding our way to have a really strong and impactful voice in this time where our politics have been ripped away from us and then new political structures have been placed back on top of us, it's so important for us to watch for that and be able to maneuver the bureaucracy and take care of our environment so that we can hold on to our culture. Right now, many people are aware that there is a decision out with, or a potential decision out with the roadless rule, the Alaska roadless rule, that is really devastating for the Tongass and the tribes in Southeast Alaska and the Indigenous people. And for a lot of people looking at the roadless rule, they look at potential trees being cut down and either profit or lack of profit that's going to be caused because of that. When I look at the roadless rule, I think of all of the potential suicides in our communities. I think of all of the babies not learning how to weave. I think of all of the young ones and the older ones that are craving to learn how to carve our ways, not learning how to carve. Mm-hmm. I think of not ever, casting another canoe and bringing it all the way down to visit our relatives in the island south. I think of all of the different food that relies on this, that feeds the other food, that feeds us, and eventually one day will feed back. Mm. And so when I look at, environmental activism, as some people call it, or just the way I call it is living in balance with our way of life and our surrounding life. They really are one and the same. And for us to be able to continue our way of life, for us to be able to hand down stories that hold the lessons, that have the place names, they have to stay relevant for the children and for the babies, because these babies that are being born for us, they are our ancestors that are coming back to us. They need to be able to recognize this world that they're coming back into so that they can navigate it, so that they understand the weather, like Sam has said, or so they can eat their precious meat, like Jordan's not able to. Mm-hmm. And that's important, is that we take down this barrier, this wall that separates us as human beings from that world that's right there next to us.
Right. Wow. Very good perspective, and that makes me think, when this pandemic hit, how it really took me back to where I came from, who I am, what I stand for. So great stuff. Great message. I appreciate that, Marina. Sam, going over to you, about the pandemic, it's all affected us many different ways, and it stopped everything. I know that all of you travel around the communities across the country, different villages, whatnot, and it just stops. And I've heard so many stories from a lot of our relatives that their healthy routines have stopped, and some may have reverted back to old patterns because of it. But through all of this, we still have to find a way to keep it healthy and to stay healthy. So like I said, it's affected a lot of us. So Sam, how has your work virtually helped in your mission? And if there's a positive, perspective on it, maybe you can shed light a little on other people to encourage them to do something virtually as well. So how's it helped your mission?
I think it's done two things, or a number of things. One, there is something good about this pandemic, and that's that it's brought internet to a lot of rural places here in Alaska. It's made it so that it is something that's provided for, where it wasn't before. And so what that has meant is that communities which were pretty much, you either had to go there or you had to call somebody on the phone, you can now have easier access to. And so what that means is that the stories of Alaska are able to reach the larger world and able to come out when they would not have otherwise been able to. The other thing that it's done is allowed communities across the U.S., Native communities across the U.S. and non-Native communities across the U.S. to connect with each other. We are presented with a problem in this pandemic, and that's that a lot of places are forced to survive without connection to the outside world for a time. I know with the kind of upstream issues that the pandemic presented, many grocery stores in rural parts of our state were not able to get food.
Mm-hmm.
And so it highlighted more than ever the importance of our subsistence in traditional ways. And it also kind of made everybody take a step back and look and see really what's going on in their communities. It said, all right, well, we're going to kind of unplug from the rest of the world and look within ourselves and look within our families. And so it's brought us closer together. And through all of that, it's also highlighted the changes that have happened to our places where we live and highlighted the importance of climate policy and climate activity. Recently, at the beginning of this year in March, I've been called up by Don Sampson with AT&I to help them put together something called the 2020 and 2021 National Tribal Climate Leadership Summit, where the goal was to bring people from across the country together to work on a proposal that would be sent to NCAI and Speaker Pelosi on what Indian country wants in terms of climate policy, mm-hmm. and what we need to be able to continue our way of life and to progress, mm-hmm. where we want to be in 10 years and how we want to look. And one of the major barriers that we were presented with was, how are we going to get 700 people from across the country together in Seattle, Washington? Mm-hmm. And the transition to an online experience has made it a little bit easier to bring people together and made it a little bit easier for feedback to be gotten from all corners of our country on what climate policy should look like in the coming years. And so this is a shameless plug, but if anybody is interested, please join us for that summit and please have your voice heard. This is a summit whose kind of work is going to inform a national Native climate policy agenda, mm-hmm. And going to be really championed by House Democrats. Okay. And so if anybody is interested, please join us, and you can sign up at, I believe it's atnitribes.com/climate-change/TS. So I hope you guys can join us virtually.
Okay, maybe Maka can plug that somewhere, type that out somewhere. Hey, here in a moment, we got a few things going on. I'm gonna turn it back over to Maka here in a second, but before I do that, just down the road, down the line. Okay, I'll call you now. We'll go Jordan. We'll go Sam, Jordan, Ruth, and Marina. I'm gonna ask you real quick, just to within just a few real quick. Sam, we'll start with you. What are some projects that you're working on, or what you plan on doing in the future? Go ahead.
Well, I did just talk about one of them, and that's the National Tribal Climate Summit. And that's something that's taking up a lot of my time. But in addition to that, I have the great pleasure of working with Maka and some other people as an Arctic Youth Ambassador, where the main goal is really to say, hey, this is what's happening in my home. Let's help fix it. A lot of times when people think about climate change, they think about a polar bear on a melting ice cap or a wildfire in California. They don't necessarily think about Native peoples in the Arctic not being able to eat, right, and experiencing food insecurity. And so that is one of the things that I really am looking forward to really getting out the message about. Okay. As well, I'm working with the Arctic Youth Network to try and connect people from around the world on Arctic policy issues. So right now we have people from Russia, people from Canada, and people from Alaska working together to tell the stories of our communities and to get the message out that climate change isn't something that only affects animals, and it isn't something that's far away. it's something that's here today and that is affecting real people and my community. And so those are two things that I'm really working on.
All right. How about you, Jordan? What kind of projects and what you got going on in the future?
So the projects that I'm working on right now are mainly with the Gilcrease Museum. I'm researching 1,500 objects in the Native American art collection, and these are mainly paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what I love about the project, which is a 2-year project funded by the Henry Luce Foundation, is this connection to all of these painters and people who survived boarding school, who lived through the transition from living on the plains or southeast, the northwest, the northeast, all of these different communities that were sort of plunged into what is now Oklahoma. Their stories are recorded in these paintings, and the communities are represented in those stories. And so what I'm working on for that is doing a lot of writing and research. There's several publications that are going to come out from that. But also my heart work, I feel like, is really connecting to something that Ruth touched on, which is bringing into dialogue these critical relationships across space and across geography. And we're doing that right now, I feel like, really successfully. But my dad's people in New Zealand have these beautiful practices and these beautiful policies and approaches to housing collections, to caring for collections, to researching collections. And they're a lot further along in exercising sovereignty and everything that means there. And so I'm also starting a 3-year project with Auckland University of Technology. So I'm starting my PhD with them.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And really bringing into dialogue these communities because we have a lot to learn from each other and we have a lot to give as well. And so, of course, whatever we do, wherever we go, we bring these landways and waterways with us. Mm-hmm. And so being able to really have that access, I feel like kind of goes back to that whole digital question of how has being digitally connected really impacted that work. It's huge. Right. I think it's everything to be able to talk across space and talk with each other about issues that we may be experiencing in different ways, but are equally impactful.
Okay. Well, good. Well, man, congratulations on that. I'm excited to hear about your, the project on your father's side. That's going to be kind of cool to hear. How about you, Ruth the Truth? What project you got coming up, or what you got going on in the future?
It's interesting. I feel like I had so much, travel and conferences canceled, but somehow we're all way busier now in this Zoom virtual reality. One thing that I want to bring up in particular amongst some other projects is the ongoing media program that we've been running with Native Movement and Defend the Sacred Alaska called Always Indigenous Media. It's a media program, by the people, for the people, written and created by Alaska Native youth to highlight our issues and to bring as many people into the conversation as possible. So we started a year ago at the 2019 AFN, where we provided kind of like an alternate coverage of events happening at Alaska Federation of Natives and Elders and Youth Conferences. We hosted our own panels and workshops and things like that to bring in voices that we don't often get to elevate and hear from, mostly our youth voices, of course. And we continue to offer live coverage from a lot of different events and international conferences and different spaces and stuff, so that folks at home, folks in our villages, folks who don't have access to these privileged spaces can make their voices heard, can submit questions, can give comments and critique about what's happening so that they can access this information in a digestible way. And we're expanding that program now, but it can be found on social media, and we're always looking for more contributions and folks to elevate their stories, particularly their stories of their community, their culture, and their experience with climate change. but that, I mean, that in and of itself is just collaborative storytelling, right? It's about us coming together to tell stories, to weave our stories together. And so that's a really exciting project that I think has the potential to really launch a lot of important conversations. But further than that, a lot of my work is bringing together climate actors from across the state and nation to be in conversation with one another and to come to a collective understanding, hopefully, of deep decolonization and what just transition means towards a regenerative economy, towards a society that's built for all, to represent all, that's accountable to all people. And so a lot of the decolonization work that we do, even within the environmentalist community, is really pushing all people at the table of acting on the climate to think about what Indigenous stewardship means and the value of our principles and the value of our ancestral knowledges and our place-based knowledge that will guide us towards a right relationship and a right economy with managing our earth. So that's really exciting work that you know, is all rooted here in us, in Indigenous youth, in our Indigenous ancestors and our ancestral ways.
Okay, well, good. Wow, I'm excited about that. I can't wait for things to open up, but I am cool with Zoom, and I'm just hearing all your stories. I'm eager to get out there and see you guys work. Over to you, Marina. You know, same question for you. Any current project? You got a project coming up, or what you got going on in the future, real quick?
Yeah, right now I'm just still working on the roadless rule. As everything goes with that, the FEIS came out yesterday. The record of decision will be out next month. I just wrapped up this morning working on a film with the film crew. It's about the transfer of the stewardship of the land through the different generations. And I'm not going to leak too much away. Just watch for it, and I'll post it around for you guys to watch it when it comes out in January. But in, you know, some other roles, I am working on making sure to sustain some housing and secure some housing in the village because, like all of the villages, we have a lot of overcrowding, which really is not good health conditions. Really working on boosting up, getting a lot of our cultural education online so that our kids and community can access it. We're doing a lot of in-house self-teaching. And it seems to be going pretty good. And one of my favorite things that I'm working on right now is with Central Council, Tlingit and Haida Indian Tribes of Alaska, we were, a group of us were able to develop a youth commission in that group, or through Central Council. And so we just got our applications for all of the applicants for our youth commission, and I'm really excited to get that commission up and running and get the ball rolling with that. But other than that, I'm doing 10,000 other things like all of us, and just being thankful and making sure to take care of myself. That's number one on my list. Maka's grandfather taught me that. So
Good. So what was the name of that? Can you at least give us the film project you're working on? And you said January it's coming out?
In January it's coming out. I am not sure if it has a name yet. Tentatively, it's Deglee, which is strength, but I'm not sure. It's an unnamed baby at this moment. Okay.
Well, I'm going to be looking out for it. All the way down here in Oklahoma, me and Jordan are going to be looking out for it. So in the next 30 seconds, my fault on my tardiness tonight, the next 30 seconds, we'll stay with you, Marina. We'll go down the road again. So within 30 seconds, what advice would you give to Native youth in attendance tonight?
I would give you advice to reach out and engage and start having dialogue with other Indigenous people of all ages, and reach out to those of us here on this panel. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm sure everybody would love to engage with you and keep going forward into our next phases of life together.
Oh, perfect. Ruth.
Find your medicines. Know your medicines. Find those ways that keep you grounded, that keep you connected, because life right now is hard. It's challenging. We're all carrying so much, and for the first time, we can't gather, we can't be in community. So find those ways to connect, find ways to make your roots reach the earth so that you can sustain yourself, so that you can take care of yourself, because we have to be here for the next 10,000 years too.
That's right. Good. Thank you for that. Good words. Jordan.
Definitely have the audacity and have the strength and conviction to follow what it is that you feel like you want to do at the time. If there's something you want to learn, if there's something you want to try, if there's something you want to do, like learning your language, go do that. Have that strength. We have a saying in Kiowa, and it's anko. It's just one word, and it means charge. It means do it, go for it. With all of your mana, with all of the energy that you have, pursue that. And I have an affirmation for everyone here. If you're going through hard times, or if you're going through tough times, or maybe your family or your friends are experiencing that, definitely, like Marina said, connect to people who can support you, connect to the services or to the community members who can lift you up. Our kinship is our greatest blessing. So, and thank you.
Good. Thank you for those words. Sam.
I think in terms of advice, this morning I was doing a video project and ended up talking to one of the respected elders here in Alaska, Sam Keto, who was influential in making it so that Alaska Natives got our land. And he gave me 3 pieces of advice. One was tell your story. That's one of the most important and powerful things that you have. The second piece was if there's not a seat at the table that you want to be at, go make one. And take that seat and sit down and make sure that your voice is heard. And the third thing he said was build your community and make sure that when you speak with one voice, because that's how you make change and that's how you're most powerful. Is if when you work on something, you all work together and you all present the same way. So with that, thank you very much.
You know what? To be honest with you, this was my best part right here because I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in there. I'm not a youth anymore, but I'm gonna throw it in there. Listen, like all of them said, reach out, be who you are. But I love it. Like pull your own chair up to your own table. Don't wait on anybody to validate you. Validate yourself. Be self-proclaimed. Be proud of who you are. Know that you're one of a kind. That you have a niche. Make a difference. Phenomenal. This panel, give yourself a round of applause. My goodness, you guys all did a great job tonight. I want to thank you. Sorry we went over a little over time a little bit, young people. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you listening. What a great 3-day summit. Just to hear all of these different speakers, especially this evening, and just the 3 days of the panel. Man, my goodness. I wish I could have made it for all 3, but Maka, I just want to thank you so much for, putting this, reaching out to me and letting me be part of something amazing. So I do want to thank you all, and I hope we can all get each other's information. But all of you listeners out there, if you haven't registered, I know this will probably be going up on YouTube at some point, somehow, some way, whatever it may be. But you're going to be blessed with 3 nights of awesome panelists. Don't forget the hashtag TELS, TELS 2020. Maka, I turn this portion of the program back over to you. I'm Chance Rush. Thank you for letting me join, sitting with you, and pretend like I know what I'm doing. Maka.
I'm Thane Gunalchish. Thank you so much, Chance. Thank you for reminding folks of like our hashtag. Again, if you do want to receive university credit for attending 14 hours of the Tribal Environmental Leaders Summit, you can do so. You would just need to register, and all the courses will be available on demand. Our tech team will be working to get them all uploaded in the module within 24 hours, we're hoping. I appreciate you all so much. When I think of the advice that I would share, I would think of surround yourself with good spirits. So your mind and your spirit, surround it with other good spirits. And I feel like everyone on this panel are people that I would reach out to in a time of need, and just have so much gratitude in my heart. And your words and your presence are going to carry me through the rest of the year. I just appreciate that so much. And so we're live here at the Alaska Native Heritage Center, and we're turning it over to the General Track Coordinator and Administrator, Mita and Randy over at the TCM camera. Thank you again so much. Thank you so much. And we're going to be getting ready to close out tonight. Thank you. Ganesh Chish.